It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast as we cover the latest property news every morning on iHeartRadio, Spotify and Apple, and of course wherever you get your good podcast from. Can't believe it, another weekend has landed, another busy one around the country, a busy day, and a shout out this morning especially to our friends working in the real estate industry. There are many agents who will be out there working for their clients from Cairns to Perth and all cities and suburbs in between. Have a fantastic day if you are an agent working across your Saturday, probably working across your Sunday as well. We are, of course, out of winter now, so more properties are coming online. And if you are prepping your property this weekend, getting ready to take it to market, to list it, make sure that the real estate agent selection is somebody that you have done good due diligence on. Remember, the biggest, the best, the number one agent, the most sales, etc., not necessarily is the best fit for you. So that's why you've got to do great due diligence. Well, it is a Saturday, as I mentioned. It is October the 21st, and g'day to you, Colin, listening in Dalkeith in Perth. Great to have you with us this morning, and thank you for the invite to have a beer when I'm next in Perth. Thank you for that, Colin. Let's bring in Anthony Landahl. He's the Managing Director of Equilibria Finance. And good morning to you, Anthony.
Good morning, Craig. Great to be here, mate. And that's a nice invitation from Colin. I reckon you should take him up on that, mate. A couple of beers over there in Perth sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, I mean, just to write, I mean, we love getting the emails, but to write and say, mate, next time that you're in Perth, got a beer lined up for you. So, Colin, never been to Perth before, but when I come to Perth, the first person I'll have a beer with is you. Now, what are we talking about this morning, Anthony?
Yeah, well, look, Australia is genuinely in the grip of a housing affordability and rental crisis. So we're going to take a bit of a deep dive on the rental crisis, understanding the causes, understanding the context, and also looking at how investors are navigating this.
Yeah, it's such a big talking point at the moment. So we'll come back after the break. We will talk about some of the highs, the lows, the pain, and what people are going through as far as the rental market is concerned. We'll do that next with Anthony.
Every morning from 6 a.m, we bring you the latest real estate news with diverse perspectives from leading industry experts. We deliver the most property podcasts across Australia every week.
Well, if you are in Brisbane, we have some data from the PropTrack Market Insight Report, which reveals the best and worst times of the year to sell property in Brisbane. If you're selling in October, it gets you prices 0.52% higher than average, according to a 2013 to 2022 analysis. And properties sold in November offer 0.25% more gains for sellers. That results in approximately $4,000 higher returns on a typical $750,000 home. And these trends are also consistent in most markets nationwide during the peak spring selling season. And nationally, November sales reach 0.8% higher prices. Well, if you're celebrating a birthday, let's check on those for today, for Saturday, October the 21st. And Judge Judy is celebrating her 80th birthday today. If you're a Star Wars fan, it would have been Carrie Fisher's birthday, but she passed away back in 2016. And the man of the moment, if you can call him that, being talked about, Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, is turning 73.
We dive deep into topics like buying, selling, investing, and maximising your property's value. From mortgage advice to the latest property data and trending numbers, your real estate journey starts here. It's the Main Centre forecast.
And around the country, let's check on your weather. First off, in Sydney, looking pretty good. Sunshine and your high of 27 degrees. In Melbourne, cloudy with a possible shower. 23 is your forecast high. Looking pretty good in Brisbane. Fine, maybe a little bit of cloud. 29. And the big blue is back again. In Perth, sunshine and 30 is your forecast top today.
Don't navigate the real estate market alone. Let us help guide you in the world of real estate every day. Make better informed decisions with the latest news and insights.
And it is a Saturday morning across Australia, and Australia is currently, as Anthony mentioned before the break, grappling with an acute housing affordability and rental crisis. Vacancy rates are at historic lows. We know this. It's been well reported on. Rental supply remains limited and rents are soaring, all with no apparent respite in sight. And back with us to discuss and dive deep into the issue is Anthony Landahl, the Managing Director and Finance Broker at Equilibria Finance. And Anthony, I wonder if there is anyone who can actually accurately sum up just how bad the rental market is changing, given the changing nature of the market. Anthony, can you provide some context with just how bad the rental crisis is at the moment?
Yeah, look, if I really cut to the chase and summarise, Craig, this morning for everybody, vacancy rates are at virtually all-time lows, rental stock is slim, and rents are skyrocketing. I mean, you know, I enjoy looking at some of the data, so I have done that again. 31% of Australians are renters, right? So that's a large portion of people looking for a dwelling. Asking rents in capital cities over the last 12 months have gone up 16.2%. Nationally, when you take in all of the regionals, between Q2 22 and Q2 23, they've gone up 6.7%. Vacancy rates are virtually at all-time lows of 1.1% over the last 12 months. And in some areas, they're as low as 1%. So we really have got price rising, vacancy rates at some of their lowest levels. The other thing is median rents in capital cities haven't really kept up with inflation for a number of over the last decade or so. So to some extent, some of the prices are catching up as well. So there's this confluence of factors that have caused this problem.
You know, people wonder how we actually got to this mess with the rental market not being balanced. I mean, it's a long way from being a balanced market when it comes to the rental market. So how did we get into this rental crisis? Many people will be asking.
Yeah, there's an overarching supply and demand disconnect in Australia, and that's been sort of building, I suppose, for the last 20 or 30 years. Over the last 20 or 30 years, relatively speaking, our interest rates are fairly low in relative terms. We've had a lot of demand-driven incentives for home buyers. So there's been a lot of initiatives driving demand, which has been pushing up house prices, let alone from the last couple of years. There's fewer investors coming into the market over the last couple of years. Owner-occupiers have been dominating the market. More recently, investors have been selling up. Listed stock at the moment is about 33% of investors, which is above the historic long-term average of maybe around 25%. And the other big reason that's coming along is the migration numbers. So we've got a chronic shortage of supply in housing. We've got a shortage of supply in new developments, and we've got migration numbers at historic highs. I was listening to AMP, our chief economist, last week, and we've got 500,000 migrants coming to Australia, and we've got the capacity for construction of about 200,000 dwellings. So there's this confluence of factors on both the demand side and the supply side. Investors leaving the market, investors selling up, and also we've got increased demand with these migration numbers and also people changing their habits. We've got less people per house, so there's more people looking for properties to live in.
Yeah, it's what you call a perfect storm, all of those things converging together. And rental pain, as we know, it is real. It's affecting so many people who, of course, once again, they're asking, is this set to continue? When is the relief coming? What do you say to somebody who asks you, and I know that you get this asked all the time, how long is this crisis going to continue for?
The truth is there's no easy fix. There's no short-term fix. And while ever we have these record migrant numbers, then we're going to have this supply and demand mismatch. We've had disincentives from government in terms of intervention around the investment market and uncertainty around some of the rental laws, around some of the tenancy laws. So we've got a reduced number of investors. We've got decreasing capacity to actually get new developments off the ground, and new developments that are off the ground are not getting built. Cost to build's increasing, so construction industry struggling to keep up. We've got increasing demand. So the bottom line is there's no short-term patch-up solution. Longer term, they've got to be looking at some of these build-to-rent programs, look at some of these overseas investors and incentivise some of these programs that actually look at what's the long-term population look like, what's the long-term housing needs, and how do we supply them? So it's a long-term solution that seemingly at the moment is being approached quite haphazardly from all levels of government.
You know, when it comes to the government sort of tinkering with taxes, often it gets highlighted, don't start tinkering with those taxes and making those investors run out of the market. And I think we've seen that for sure. And it's kind of trying to get the right sort of balance, the right mix, because the investors, they've really got to navigate through all of this, don't they?
They do. I mean, investors play a key role in the housing market. And whilst there can be some argument around, look, are investors keeping owner-occupiers out of the market or investors driving the property up? As I said before, about 31% of households are renters, so they need to be housed. And if we're disincentivising investors, and as I said, investors are down at the moment, investor sales are trending up, then we're going to have less stock of available rental properties. So in terms of how investors are navigating it, pleasingly we're starting to see a little bit more credit flow through investors, but we're still down about 12 to 15% on credit flows with investors. A massive challenge for investors right now is finding investment grade properties. With our shortage of stock, the fundamentals around capital growth, rental returns, tax benefits, it's really hard to find those areas of growth that are offering that investor grade property. Behind that is the cash flow considerations. Cost to hold, cost to fund, a good investment have all gone up over the last 12 to 18 months. Very difficult environment for investors, either new to market or those savvy investors finding the investment grade property.
All right, well, good to get a bit of a thought from you this morning, and I'm sure plenty of takeaways there for people that are sort of just wondering what is going on, how we sort of got to this, and what is the likely outcome of getting to the other side. Another weekend, another surf coming up this morning?
Yeah, another weekend, and it's a lovely time of year coming into summer. So, yeah, it's been nice to get out on the water and clear the head after another busy week with a solid run until Christmas on the radar.
Every week, real estate transactions take place as the market shifts month by month. And every week, we keep you better informed and updated.
And what about yields? Because they have been a bit of a concern for many Sydney investors. So how do you sort of balance all of that out for an area like Blacktown?
I think this is a critical point, because if you look at the next few years, this is what I imagine. We're seeing rental yields sort of between 3% to 3.7 across many parts of this Blacktown Council. And that is not bad for Sydney. All it takes is our current rental increase paces that are happening, and you combine that with an interest rate, a headline that's starting to move down, then you've got a recipe for the cash flow quite heavily changing. Because I always talk about one thing: interest rates go up and down, rents go up.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.